Hello, 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 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. Coming live to you out of the group Acquiring Vision. And we are going to do a topical discussion from the male perspective. And so we have an amazing gentleman on tonight that's going to share a little bit from the male perspective. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I had the pleasure of meeting him online actually a couple weeks ago, and we bonded, connected. So I thought, you know what, you need to come on board and let's
Yeah.
talk. All right, so I'm gonna have you introduce yourself by sharing your theme song and why you chose that to be your theme song. If you were to have a theme song, you know that ones that walk down the street that plays while you walk down the street. So let's hear it.
All right, man. I got this for you. I hope y'all can hear it all right. Good evening, Brother Tim.
All right, all right.
Yeah. Jeff recorded folks here. Hopefully you know it. The classic. Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, Troubled Band, Marvin Gaye. And I can let this play on loop all day. And I'm having a tested day
Okay.
when I'm gonna put that off here.
All right. I like.
Yeah, that the reason I picked that as a theme song, and I appreciate you asking that, was I am a troubled man. I'm no angel. I'm not perfect. Uh,
Right.
and I built myself up pretty well as well with other people around me. But what I love most about it is Marvin Gaye. He was the smoothest cat, man, but you knew he could handle things.
Mm.
And I always want to try to be a good looking guy, but I also like to be the hardest working person in any room. So that's why I love that song. I got reasons to be troubled, and I got reasons to fight for good outcomes.
Okay. Okay. I like that. I like that. I like that. Now we have another individual, Terrence Hayes. So, sir, can you please introduce yourself and talk a little about where you're from and what you do?
Yes, sir. My name's Terrence Haynes. I am a chef by profession for over 30 years. I do full service catering, both corporate and private, cooking lessons, cooking demonstrations, cooking parties, basically anything that has to do with food. Also, active food ministry,
Uh-oh, food ministry.
feeding,
Oh, wait.
Yeah.
Food ministry. That sounds fattening,
yes,
bro.
sir.
Talk to me about that.
Hmm.
So basically, I've had an occasion in my lifetime to be homeless. I've had an occasion in my lifetime to be broke and not be able to afford um, the good smelling food that I passed by a restaurant and smelled.
Mm. Okay.
So I made it my mission to be able to take those same things that I would prepare for, any corporate event out to the people who are in the highways and byways so that they can eat good as well. There's nothing wrong with a peanut butter and jelly sandwich or a bologna sandwich when you're hungry, but
Right.
if you can get, something that's really substantial and something that is, between 3 and 5 stars, there's nothing wrong with that either. I don't see anything wrong with doing that. So,
Okay.
Man,
um,
that's love. That's awesome.
That is. That is. And you know, that's another one of those stories, and that's kind of a good segue where you taking what you've been through, capitalizing on that, and launching out and helping other people, which is what we're all called to do.
Hmm.
Um, Tonight.
absolutely.
So I want to talk about, and that's why I got you guys on set, is the male perspective when it comes to single fathers, fatherhood, divorce, heartbreak, and healing. I feel like that typically over the years, men have not found healthy outlets for those types of scenarios. We tend to, whether it's drinking ourselves away, smoking weed, whatever it is, to try to drown out and numb, run through women, become angry. You know, it's so many different things that happens when we hurt. And I think a lot of times women don't understand that men do hurt. And we just don't express ourselves because, you know, we kind of shame each other if you talk about the fact that you got hurt. So, especially growing up, you know, you don't talk about feelings. You hurt, you suck it up, and you go in the back room, and you know, and over time, I think we hold all of that energy and negativism results in some pretty angry brothers as adults. Hence, you know, a lot of the stereotypes that we have. So tonight, I want to just hear from you, brothers, and just kind of have an open conversation about those things. So I want to pose this first question out there on the table. Michael, for you first, and then Terrence. What was can you identify the first time you actually felt real pain? Like when do you remember that?
Man, well, to all your points about things we don't talk about, let me go ahead and get ready here. But just keeping it real, right? Chopping it up.
Yeah.
I think for me, having my first real pain coming from all the demographics in my house, and I appreciate you, Brother Hayes. You talked about your things and you've experienced. I've also been there, and I love how you turn around and get back. But for me, my first pain was when I had to make my brain make sense of how my heart was hurting to get divorced. I wanted to have that one family, you know, breaking those barriers, those chains of generational problems. I wanted to have an awesome wife. I wanted to have that awesome, you know, house out in the burbs and things like that and provide. And man, when I had to say it no longer made sense, that was the first pain. And man, I went dark. I thought my whole life I built up to have that. What does it look like now not having that? And man, that was some things to go through. I mean, there's still days I get triggered about that type of stuff in new relationships that, man, is that going to happen again?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I just have to be honest with myself. Not everybody's going to tell my story. Not everybody's going to understand it. But I need to be honest with myself about what are my triggers with that. And then the other person, you know, my partner, what's it like for her, you know, when we're dating to say, hey, I got these triggers. And that was my first big pain.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that because that one right there. All right. Terrence, first big pain.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, you just talking about relationship wise, or you talking about pain period?
Pain period.
Oh man.
Pain period. Well, pain period. I would say it would have to be as a child, you know, my life being dramatically changed by the influence of adults and their promiscuity and misbehavior. Unfortunately, those types of things lead into the dramatic.
Broke up.
Yeah, breaking up, brother.
Yeah. We missed that whole segment.
Okay.
All right. We might have to give you a little break on this one. I'm gonna take you off for a second and let it refresh. All right. Let him refresh his wireless connection. So back to you, Michael.
Oh man.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right. So the pain of divorce. Did you have anybody to kind of share that experience with, or walk through to unravel what you were feeling?
I mean, my brother was close. My brother Ron. I mean, he actually has the longest marriage on my mother's side of the family. I think they're celebrating 25 years here next month. And,
Hmm.
so he's done well with that. And obviously they've been tested. But there's, as while I was going through it, in addition to newly married, in addition to being young, it, we lost our first kid and it changed us. So having support, I mean, all my knucklehead friends are like, come on out. Let's
Right.
go get some yak. Let's go, knuckleheads, put some in the air, grab a stick.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I'll tell you, for me, all I had to keep doing is keep providing, keep making work, keep making money. And you're right. You talked about in the beginning, we're not supposed to feel. And then when you go to your friends and be like, man, I just need to sit in my darn car and cry right now. And then you feel like a fool, like, man, is something wrong with me? And then I come to find out, 15 some odd years later, no, I was okay.
Yeah.
And I teach my sons it's okay to be sad. And
Mm.
man, up until that point, with all the things that I experienced in life, anger was the number one. It's you were let down, someone lied to you, your marriage didn't work out. There was always this frustration, but it allowed me to grow and learn. Uh, one, that there's not people always around you to talk about it, right?
Mhm.
And then two, I had to really recognize my role in my family, in my children's family, and future generations to come. That if I didn't have it, and I didn't come from that type of family will come from me. So
Mm.
that was a conviction I had after that.
Hmm. If you didn't have it, that type of family would come from you. Wow. That's good. That's good. So were your parents did they stay together? Were they divorced or what? You there? I think we might be losing someone.
There we go.
Okay. All right.
That was yeah. It died. Everything died on my end, and I know my internet's good. So
Oh, okay. Mine good too. I got a new router, bro.
I know. Look, I got the mesh network and everything's wireless. I was like, come on now, what's happening?
All right, all right, all right. It might be me. All right. So I was asking your parents. So were your parents did they stay together or did
It
they get a
no man. Let me talk to you about blended fam. So uh, my dad was his brother, and my mom was white, right? And
Mhm.
both of them had been married before they met. And uh, that said, my closest sibling is 11 years, 10 years older than me. And so, my dad had an all black family. My mom had an all white family. Then when I was young, I said, hey, mom, if you're white and dad, you're black, how come I'm not gray? That's how simple I
Wow.
was. But
Wow.
this is kindergarten, right?
Wow.
But, uh, you know, my mom kind of shut down after my father passed. Um, my father died when I was 5. And honestly, I just shared a birthday right around my campaign kickoff on the 14th, just last week, or two
Mhm.
weeks ago, excuse me. And I'm now older than he was. That's an interesting thing to go through.
Mm.
And, you know, no real solid relationships for my mom after my father passed. She tried to date every few times, but
Right.
uh, no real figure to look up to either. So
Mhm. Mhm. So you mentioned now so you're single, right?
I am, yeah. But right now the focus in life is to find that final chapter and co-parenting really well with blended situations. But that's that's the goal.
So you're a single father. So what do you think the perception is? Has the perception of fathers improved in your opinion or declined over the years?
I think it's definitely improved. I think even you see like Oprah and Stepman, right? That even role reversal of times of what's the stereotypical father in the house. He might be the one taking care of things at home, and the missus is out there, or the mom is out there being the breadwinner. So it's
Right.
nice. It's nice to see as a society that we've grown up like that, and being someone who's had the production third shift jobs, to being in corporate America, how even that's kind of becoming. But from a A father approval perspective, I'm constantly, and I've gone through this even to my own divorce. Didn't matter my record, didn't matter how much I contributed. It was, here's what I think it is for mom. They're the norm. Here's the package. Here's how you move forward in your divorce and your custody situation. And that breaking against that, where I just say, hey, you're you, I'm me. A piece of paper doesn't need to define all of this because life is not that simple and black and white. So I think fathers' roles have increased. I'm definitely an advocate for equal and shared parenting, and I'm even more an advocate for fathers being present at the table.
Hmm. Right. So, what's it like being a single father in this day? And what do you have? You have two girls, one boy. What do you got?
So two boys and a girl, and in fact, Harrison turns 5 today, my youngest son.
Okay. Where's he
Yeah,
at? Happy birthday.
yeah. Oh, we'll get him out here. He's trying to be patient today, but he wanted his ears pierced today. So
Okay.
y- yeah, so we're actually celebrating his birthday at his mom's here as well. We co-parent really well. I'm very thankful for that because in previous chapters it was not always that case. So I'm thankful for that, but
Co-parenting well.
I'm thankful. So you talk about what it's like being a single dad, man. Where it gets really hard when you have those blended situations, and I own to being young and learning and things like that. When you have 1 minute you're having a frustrating situation where you might talk about going back to court, changing custody,
Hmm.
you can't work today, or you need to go travel because you're the breadwinner, but then you're
Hmm.
missing times with the kids that you're providing for, and then 5 minutes later you have another kid that's just a sponge, mom's cool to work with, and to have to turn those hats off of frustration versus happiness and reward, and
Mm.
treat the kid no different and see that they're going through it, man, that's tough.
Mm. Hmm.
That's probably one of the things that I wasn't prepared for, is not only to be a dad in those situations, but then to teach my children those adverse situations and how I had to lead by example for that. So there's, sometimes you don't want to talk to somebody, but you got to push through your emotions and set the example of how you need to deal with this adverse situation.
Right. So, do your kids do they ask a lot about why you got a divorce, or bring it up often?
My oldest son does. Um, he definitely does. And, he's 14 now, so he's a young man. Um, and, the thing about kids now, we had to go look for information in encyclopedias or, search engine maybe, but it was a card catalog system at the library, showing my age there.
Right.
But,
Right.
they're inundated about school shootings and Snapchats and all the stuff going on in DC right now, right? And to not have that conversation when you want to protect them uh, is interesting.
Mm.
So I made a decision that if they ask certain things, I will tell them at the age level that is appropriate for them.
Mm.
And one of the most powerful things that I didn't do for a long time was to kind of flip it on its head a little bit and say, I think you need to ask your mom that question. I don't have a good answer.
Mm.
Uh, I don't know, or maybe you need to ask mom why she does that. Uh,
Mm. Mm.
and so that's been a lot of growth for all these years.
I definitely can feel that. Even my son, because I'm product of a divorce as well. So my son, he's 12. So those
Hmm.
questions about his mom and how to answer those appropriately,
Hmm.
without taking those digs and responding in such a way, that it definitely is a lot of growth in that. And I found myself being a lot of times a diplomat when I didn't want to. So I I think that brings a lot of skills to the table, even for you as you're running for office.
Yeah, I'm diplomatic. I mean, someone
You
can
know,
say, I'm short and heavy, and I'm gonna make a weight joke because I've lost like 200 pounds. But I
okay,
said, no, you ain't heavy. You're just hurricane rated. You're prepared for a tornado. You flip it on the side and say it how you need to say it, but in a good way. Uh,
right, right.
yeah, man. But to your point about that growth you have, um, so I cut my boy's hair. I got a chair downstairs. One, it just started off to just save money, but it was one of the most, we talk about, safe sex, who's that girl?
Okay.
Uh, I would grade. You know, I make sure to talk to them because I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And if they're going to be my son, I know that they're going to be like me, and I know that I needed to talk about
Thank
it.
you.
And I'd rather it comes from me anyway.
Right. Right.
Um, but you know, there's a time in the last year where my oldest son's mother, my ex-wife, was stirring some things up, and it allowed things not to be comfortable at home.
Mm-hmm.
And so he had lots of questions about custody, questions
Mm,
about school, questions about money,
mm,
uh, you know. And I just had to always tell him, I said, you know what, son, whatever you need, I'll handle the adult stuff. You get that schoolwork
right.
done in them grades.
Right.
And that was the first time where I could feel, and I tell you what, Tim, I was mad. I was hot. I have this expression, man. I was hotter than fish grease in Atlanta, Georgia, in
Yeah.
the month of July.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
And I just had to say, boy, he's watching me right now. And if I'm going to react poorly, he's going to learn that bad behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so it's having them not only made me a better father every day, they make me a better man.
Right. Right. So that kind of leads in. I know kind of the hits that I took because I was temporarily a single dad, and you know, choosing someone that was inappropriately matched to handle that blended family, and there were some hits that was taken. You know what I'm saying? So, what are some of the
Yeah.
hits that you take right now, just being a single father?
Oh, the mental stress, real talk, the mental stress of trying to think about, all right, I want a family again, and not just make the best case scenario what I have. Uh, really find that partner, that equal person. You talk about mismatch. I want someone equally yoked. Um, and a lot of people think that means just financially or education wise.
Mm-hmm.
For me, that's drive, that's passion, understanding,
Mm-hmm.
communication, trying to balance each other. And maybe you're 10 over here and I'm 90. But
Mm-hmm.
on the flip side, where I'm 10, I need you 90.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so the biggest hit, man, has just been how do I have that thoughtful balance of keeping my previous chapters happy, co-parenting alive, without stirring up jealousy. Um, and then I know I'm always going to make somebody mad. And why can't I be the one that's happy? What are the kids going to be like? And so I just feel like I'm kind of stuck in this lane, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
for me, the other part of it is a stigma. Uh, there's so many dads out there who let's just be real, deadbeat dads. They
Mm-hmm.
ain't doing nothing. Um, whether you got money or time, one of them's free, right?
Hmm.
Or at least helps the kid in some way. And in my mentorship for years, I remember this is a very interesting conversation. I'll be real vulnerable with this. With Jaden's mom, there was an expression of picking out a school,
Mm-hmm.
and it was school, the choice that I had suggested made lots of logical sense. It was close proximity to his mother's house. It was very easy for me because I was working downtown, and it was in the middle of the city. And so, and I also was mentoring there through Partnership for Kids. There were some boys that I was mentoring there, some other young boys who didn't have male figures. And she literally came back and said, "You just want him to go there because you're mentoring there." And I thought,
Hmm.
at that point, I knew it didn't matter how good I was, it didn't matter what I was contributing. If I just made the recommendation, it's inherently gone against.
Right.
And, and that's
Yeah.
frustrating, right? I mean, I know and and then on the flip side, birthday boys, mom, if I need to go out of town for work, or she needs to go to work because she's got her own career too, hey, what's your calendar like this day before I let somebody know? And it's just so crazy to have that balance. So for me, uh, that's one of the hardest ones, man. I mean, I'm sure you've had your lumps and hits as well.
Bruh. I'll tell you though, it's kind of interesting, and just so you have a daughter. I have twin daughters,
Mhm.
and the whole spending the night thing and having a daughter spend the night, or another woman's daughter or another parent's daughter, and that whole, oh, he's a single dad. I'm not sure. I don't know if you ever ran into that just doing the sleepover thing, but
No, I haven't ran into that. Sophia's pretty young. She's gonna be 4, but uh, there's some co-parenting woes in that situation as well. And
Mhm.
so it's always interesting because uh, here I am trying to be a little diplomatic on it. You hear that pause, but
Yeah, yeah,
when you're with them, you're the greatest thing is sliced bread, and then as soon as there's something you don't like, now it's you're the bad person, right? And it's just interesting how you can demonize someone just because of your feelings of you got left or they didn't want to be with you. And
mhm,
at this point in life, I don't think there's anybody I'm going to meet where I'm their first chapter, or there's nobody there. It's not my first chapter, obviously. And
right.
so to not think that there's going to be baggage, I think is pretty asinine. And I'm tired of carrying my baggage. And I've read something real powerful a few years ago, man. It says, you found the right person when you get to unpack.
Mm,
Ain't that something?
yeah, yeah, I like that. You know, it that takes me also to scripture where it talks about Samson, how Delilah coaxed him so much
Mm.
that he was able to lay his head in her lap. And I don't know if you've ever done that, but if you've ever laid your head in a woman's lap,
Hmm.
that is one of the most vulnerable things that you can do, is
Oh,
to
yeah.
position yourself and just allow yourself to lay down, lay your head in the lap. And that's kind of where that whole finding someone that you can let your heart rest in them. But
Hmm.
when you come from that place of you've been attacked so much, told the different things, maybe making enough money, you don't have the right status, just all these different jibs that a woman can stab at you and literally, rip your heart out, tell you ain't man enough. It's so many different things that can leave a brother in a place of um, just a place of just a wreck, a hot mess. And having that healthy avenue, when I say healthy,
Hmm.
is really where as a brother, and just from the male perspective, a lot of times women just don't know how bad we hurt and have been hurt in the past. And we might run around with our chest stuck out, but grunting and growling and fist ball, that's just because we mad,
Right.
you know?
You right on that, man. You talk about frustrations. I mean, the expectations we have as men to not express ourselves, not in the workplace, because you don't bring it up there. We don't get to gossip. We don't get to call a girl and say, "Hey, man, girl, you ain't gonna believe it. I have so many, some friends would be like, oh, I can just tell my girl we're gonna go have wine,"
Yeah,
and I'm like, yeah, that's for me. Other than if I force a conversation, a lot of my friends still get a little nervous. They're like, "Hey, man, I don't know if I want to talk about it." And I'm like, "You need to.
right,
I want
right.
you to know it's an option, but if it ain't at the cigar bar, which is normally over a stick and some yak, right?
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah,
or if it's not at the bar and it's fellas' night out, which is always short lived because you
yeah.
don't want to provoke a bad situation either,
Hmm.
or it's a barbershop chair. Those are really kind of the only places where we get to just kind of, there's still a little swag stepping and showing off, but you say, hey, man, how's your family? How's your kids?
Right.
Um, I think even sometimes, the days that even in church, you don't really talk a lot about it because it's such a tight knit area that once you show that chink in that armor, someone will always look at you that way.
Mhm.
And from a male perspective, at least from my perspective, it's interesting that when a woman goes through an adverse situation, she gets built up. Girl, you
Mm.
made it. You did that as a single mom. You did that as a woman in your careering, but which is great. I am not knocking that down. And I have a million and one friends that I want to continue to support. But when a man goes through something and we need that, man, why are you a punk? Why you want to be sad? Why you so emotional? Why don't you man up?
Right.
And
Right.
sometimes women will say that. So it's interesting, man. And
Yeah.
I was actually just talking to a great friend, really respect her over the weekend, and she was talking about how a former chapter of hers has kind of circled back and they've worked out of being friends. Now, this is a person I've helped her pick up pieces of her life, emotionally and physically. You know what I mean? And there was a point where I kind of said, "Hey, I've been there. I'm not even going to stand around to watch you do this." And and at the time, I made that decision. I said, "Okay, that's my choice to be in this space."
Hmm.
But then I said, "Hey, take your head out of your rear. Stop just thinking about you. What does that person really need? And then is that going to make them real happy? Can you support them through that unconditionally?" And I think if you love and respect people, even if you don't identify with it, you got to get behind them because that's what they need to be happy. And
Right.
that's one of them things that if I didn't go through the divorce, I didn't go through the diverse situations in childhood, in my marriage and dating, I don't think I would have been able to man enough to go through that and say that. I just
Hmm.
that was and that it's interesting how it resonates now. It actually I try not to just go through something. I try to grow through it.
Mm. Say that one more time, bro. Break that down. Preach that. Hey, hey.
Yeah, yeah, man. I try not to just go through something. You know, if you lost your job, you lost your money, you lost your girl, you're fighting for your kids, grow through it. How can you be better? How can you avoid it? How can you talk to your boy? You know, we always talk about mental health. Man, I can't imagine how many cats. One of my cats that I went to Creighton Prep with took his life a block away from where I live downtown.
Mm.
And just the stress
Over
of
a
life,
woman.
uh, over a woman, over his success in his career, all the pressures. And so for me, it's like, man, if that person just needed a hug, 5 seconds. If someone just says, "Hey, you all right?" I mean, we all know what we feel like, and you never know what anybody's going through. So always treat someone like you can grow through it with them, if not with them, for them.
Mm. I think we talk about growing through your situation, but I think the hardest part is being able to change that perspective and be able to see how you can grow or how you can be better. Because when pain hits you, the first reaction is there's nothing good in this because it's painful. That's what
Mm,
we think. But if we knew how to change perspectives and realize when we go through pain that it isn't a personal attack from the universe, that God's not angry at us, that it's not I'm always in bad luck, but realizing that pain is something that catapults us to a next level. How do you even get your mind around not thinking that you did something wrong and just the world? How do you do that? How do you, what is your thoughts on being able to do that?
man, that's great. And I think for me, it's turning around. How did I get here? Uh, what had I gone through? And those successes. I mean, obviously, being the same age as my father, now being older than him when he passed, that still eats to me. I ain't gonna lie. It, turning my birthday, when that clock hit midnight, I broke down, man. I mean, I remember seeing him carted out. I remember the funerals. I remember all the times, it's been 10 years, 15 years. And I'm like, God, I wonder if my dad is proud of me.
Mm, wow,
Like
wow.
not hearing that from a
Mm,
father when you see, and I go out there and I do it to my son and I do it to all these kids that I work with, especially these young men.
mhm,
And
mm,
all my roles that I have, it's like I can identify with you. I not only understand, I walked in those shoes. I'm in them right now. And I have to turn around and remind myself that I did become ward of state and try to emancipate myself and lived with my brother in Ohio. I lived with my sister in Kansas City. And this is, in high school. I went to a different high school in a different state each year.
mm.
And it was because I took ownership to make these changes. And I had so much anger towards my mother, thinking, how did you allow my life to be like this?
Wow.
I'm work I'm working two jobs, two paper routes.
Hmm.
I think I started delivering papers in third grade and it didn't stop until I started working for the city of Omaha at the age of 14, man.
What?
And Yeah, man. All I knew how is to leave something better than I found it. And if it's working hard, staying up late, getting them grades, getting that scholarship, whatever it is, you always can find a way. And at least I feel that way. And I definitely am not saying everything's done by bootstraps.
Mm-hmm.
But man, I tell you what, I have to turn around and say I still became a successful father, a business owner, a community leader, a friend, uh,
Mm-hmm.
a partner in raising these kids. I try to be there. Many years now, there was many years I didn't talk to my mother because of the frustrations and habitual things that happened. And I said, I loved my grandma. Um, she was the first one to taught me about whiskey. I'm not even gonna lie. Little grandma was a trip, man.
What kind of whiskey?
She was Crown. That's it.
Uh-oh,
She
not
was,
the crown. The crown
yeah,
take you down, bro.
yeah. She was simple, man. And but what was interesting is I knew that I needed my grandma. My grandma was actually the one who told me to get a divorce. She had been married and divorced before, and
Your
as I
grandma
told
told you to get a divorce.
you, man, we're in the Omaha Press Club. I'm trying to show her up. She had worked there as a
Grandma
bartender.
told you to get a divorce. I'm stuck.
Think,
All right, go
think
ahead.
about that. I'm just
Yeah.
saying. So we're at the Omaha Press Club. I'm trying to wine and dine her. Her health is deteriorating. Uh, she was a great. It also was interesting to my mother. You see those generational things happen, and she said, "Michael, that woman is not equally matched to you." She said a lot more adverse words, but she's holding you back, and you were trying to do such a good job of being a man, a husband, and father that you're losing how unhappy you are. You're not seeing that. You think you're just unhappy because of the situation, not just how it's always going to be. And man, that kind of like
She cleared your vision up.
she did.
She
I
cleared your
mean,
vision.
and after that, it was pretty quick.
Yeah.
And well, the decision was.
This decision, right? Yeah, of course, of course.
but but man, I turned back around the same thing even with my mom. We talk about single father, and you hear about it all the time. I was just shared you a video the other day of that
Mhm.
brother talking about he him trying to find his perfect woman, and all these ladies weren't it.
Mhm.
And it all started from having bad relationships with every woman in his life.
Right.
And for me, it's like, well, you can't say it's everybody when you have a consistent problem.
Mm.
And so I turned around. I said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not." One of my other good friends who I really respect, she said, "Why don't you have a good relationship with your mom? That's a sign to women." And I said, "Woof." But
Mm.
you don't know my mom. Like I had to leave my house, and she's like, "No, it doesn't matter. You can set up a better relationship and try." And so it took a few hits in the head to get that to happen. And my mother, she has turned out to be a pretty good grandma. She tries to be present. She's got mobility and health issues, but I'm really glad because time is precious, man. As we saw this weekend, you never know.
So you were able to restore that relationship with your mom, you said?
Yeah, yep. In fact,
Really?
she'll be here for little man's birthday on Saturday. I got her into football. My mom loves Kansas City Chiefs now. I'm an Atlanta,
Really?
yeah, I'm an Atlanta Falcons fan. I don't know how that happened, but she loves them. And
Okay.
I
Okay.
think I think she just like looking at Mahomes. That's it.
Okay, that's good. I want to go back to that point. You said a lot of women say that's a sign when you don't have a good relationship with your mother.
Yep. Yep.
Um, what the sign that you're not a good man? What are some of the things they've said? Women, I want y'all to listen to that.
Yeah. And the first time I heard it, it kind of threw me back. I was like, no, you need, I would say it no different if it was my dad that I had that relationship with, right? But the first time I heard it, it surprised me because it really kind of put pause in me to say, well, you don't know me like that. Um, but then going to therapy, going to divorce,
Mm,
and I volunteered to go to therapy. I mean, lose your first kid, you lose a relationship, you get some co-parenting woes, you need somebody to talk to.
straight
And
up.
just like we're here today, uh, keeping on the male perspective, I didn't have a lot of bros to cut it up with. Uh,
Mhm.
And I appreciate you putting this platform out there, man. This is healthy. But when she told me that, um, if she's watching right now, she's probably like, "Don't you bring my name up?" But
Yeah, we just talk around her.
yeah, right. It was someone that I was interested in actually dating, and she actually said two things. She said, "Normally, biracial men have these types of characteristics," and then
Oh, wow.
I,
Stereotype you straight up.
she went right for it. And then,
Wow.
yeah, and then she said, "Well, you don't really interact with your mother, and that's a sign that you don't have healthy relationship with women."
Ooh-wee.
And I thought, man, and yeah, I look back and I said, "Well, is there a pattern?" And other than exes and former relationships, I never really had conflict like that. But I was always a person to speak up and say my piece. Like that's not okay. I definitely, as I got older, much more mellow. I'm like, oh, okay, you just wanted to be like that today. But younger, I'd be like, oh, should we be doing that? Is that healthy? Is that financially strong? But I've never really had conflict with women prior. I actually, if there's any problem I have with women in my life, is that they like me and they want to flirt. I ain't trying to swag and have my ego, but because I stay in that safe spot and I'm trusted and they like to be comfortable, sometimes I don't even see it because I have blinders on. I'm just trying to say, how can I help you? How can I be a good person in your life? How can I teach you that you can trust a man without him being predatory?
Mm.
How can I help you?
Without being predatory.
You know, um, and so I look at that now, and maybe I wasn't ready at the time when I had that bad relationship with my mother. Maybe I still needed to have that anger and frustration. Maybe I tied a lot of my youth, and I see all of my friends that I grew up with have all these amazing opportunities, and they were at different stages at that point in their life, and here I am still trying to like, man, what kind of soap are we gonna have to get for the house? Because I don't know if I got enough money for that when I was younger.
I'm not
So,
saying it again, Candace, and neither is he. They like that predatory.
oh yeah,
So, real quick, for those who don't know, we have Michael Young, who is running for county seat.
oh yeah.
All right. So we're just talking about single fathers, divorce, and healing. So if you have any comments or questions while we're on the line, go ahead and put them in the comments. This is your opportunity to get deep down and personal with your future county seat member. So if you want to ask them all things personal, I will edit it.
Appreciate that. Don't
Yes.
have my lawyer on call right now.
Right. So if anyone wants to ask a question concerning, I want to ask you this.
Sure.
What has been your go-to thing to heal from your divorce?
Mm.
And I say that so just for me being vulnerable, I've been divorced 3 times. Killed me each time. I
Ooh,
mean,
brother.
it hurt like H. And the crazy thing about divorce is not like just breaking up with somebody. And I think it's because of the, just the spiritual tie and, the whole idea behind matrimony, that it's not just like a breakup, but I got pretty good at at recovering over the few times, and there's some things that I've done to actually heal. But this last time, I joined a bunch of divorced dad groups because it, man, my heart was wrenched and it was crazy. But some of the things that these other divorced dudes was going through, I couldn't believe it. I mean, some of the things that their exes were doing, I mean, I didn't know men went through stuff like that, and it hurt my heart to the core. And I was thinking, man, are these dudes punks? But that's just how bad. I mean, it's crazy. I don't even. I have no words for what I saw in those groups. But what have you done to heal?
Whew. Man, you got a whole bunch of things you talking about what has happened. I mean, lost jobs, lost houses, bank accounts, healthcare. I mean, it's just unbelievable the attacks. And from a heal perspective, I have one hobby. I mean, most people know it. is working on cars. I got to turn a wrench. I have to keep my hands busy. Um, and so there's always there's engines down there, there's a welder and all the toolboxes and things. That's a thoughtful place where I can have a tangible result that I made something better. I don't need to talk really to anyone about it. Um, I don't even really need anyone around for it. It is really just my one thing where I go down there. I probably will have a rum and coke or Gatorade. There's no real other options.
Right.
And I'll play some old school blues, some Muddy, and I just let it flow, and I will lose time, even if I'm just cleaning my garage. And for me, it was weird that I noticed it. Actually, one of my therapist sessions a few years back, she said, you being in IT and technology management consulting, you're kind of doing process improvement all the time. You're always doing leadership solutions, but you don't always see it. Sometimes it's in a server, sometimes it's in a cloud, sometimes it's just in a margin and a business's bottom line. But I always needed that car work thing, and it reminds me of my childhood. Well, if it's broke, we can learn to fix it. You can be self-sufficient. That has been a real big key. The other thing that I've done to heal is now that I know when I go through something, someone else is going through it with me, even if it's my kids, even if it's kids' mom, clients. I got to keep myself in check because now I'm aware. Not before, I didn't really realize I was walking around like this all the time with a scowl.
Yeah.
And to really take it a step back, I say, I'm sorry. I'm not too big to say I'm messed up. That's been tough. And so now I remember another day, just a little bit before my event for running for the campaign. And everyone was kind of helping me. It was stressful, time's running out, TikTok kids are there, pick up kids from school, just go, 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 go. And I got curt, I got short, and I got a little edgy with my kids, and I had to take them to the side and even kids' mom and say, I'm sorry, it's not your fault. I apologize, and never be above apologizing to someone in that situation. Because sometimes words hurt.
Sometimes words hurt. What'd you say?
Sometimes words hurt worse than the action, man. And
right. Women got that knife with the words.
Mm-hmm.
They got a sword.
Yeah, that's true. I see we got some questions on there.
Yep.
Let's see. What's that one? I'm gonna make sure I read it here.
I got
glasses.
So okay. Candace says, you mentioned that it has always been your goal to leave things better than you found them. Do you feel as though you were able to accomplish that with your ex-wife? First part.
Mm-hmm. I know I financially provide well for them, but I've gotten to the point where I need her to have her own space. And there's times when she was stuck on the side of the road. She's had a subsequent relationship, right? And another child. And she was hitting some financial lows. I think even I was at the time. And we were just always back and forth. And it was this power struggle. And I'm really hoping, and I'm thinking right now, and that's a great question, that at least there's a point of if there's an emergency, because it's kind of oil and water. I don't think we'll ever be great just because how long it's gone on. But we talk about Jaden. We talk about his well-being. We actually have we'll push through things and say, like, Jaden has a therapy session. That's not mom. That's not dad. So he doesn't feel awkward. And we got a following co-parenting session to do that. Because for me, I always want to leave that door open so it can be healthy for the children. But when it comes to her, I can't tell you the umpteen times where I've asked, can we just move on? You win. There's been times where we would go back and forth about co-parenting, and you get those weekends where you can't have more than 3 weekends, and I would flat out forfeit my weekend and give her 3 weekends just so it would stay consistent for him. And those types of little things that really aren't making life easier. and I wanted consistency for him. I would totally bow out and say, hey, if this makes it easier, I don't need to be in charge. So I'd like to think that it's getting better. Um, I don't think it'll ever be great, and I'll be honest, I don't want to lie to nobody about that. But there was a day I would love to see that we go to his birthday party. I remember just a few years ago, I have a thing with my kids. I have to make a cake with them. I'm old school. It's something I did with my grandmother, something I did with my mom. And I made sure his mom came inside and we sang happy birthday because he needed that. Um, so, and it's ebbed and flowed. There's days it's great, there's days it's not.
So the kind of the better your efforts are around always being flexible in dealing with your ex, which will cause that improvement of being better. So there were issues when you were together, but now that you're apart, it's better because you're being probably maybe more accommodating and just to make sure things are going okay for your children.
Yeah, so one of the things is like gifts, clothes, items, where to go to mom's, goes to dad's, who got it. And just to really cut it up and be honest, when, we're talking about money, custody, let's just talk about child support. That's sensitive for men. I don't care who you are.
Right.
And they just flat out, here's your formula. Don't care about your rights, don't care about your ability. And there was a time that was a power thing for me, that she had power over me to force money to come out.
Ooh,
and then and I had to be real and say, if it's going to make my son's life better, let's do it. And now I just look at it as, here's the budget, here's how it goes. And I'll tell you, there was times where I've had financial woes, lost a job, lost clients, and it wasn't great. And I'm literally scrounging money together. You talk about being vicious, because I know she'll want to say, well, I ain't getting everything I'm supposed to be getting. We're going to hold in contempt. And I'm like, well, if you only have $1,000 and you're giving somebody $600 of it, and you still got to live, and you're single, that's a big percentage of your life gone. And you still have to provide for that child when they're with you. Man, I'm putting it all out there today. Look, see, I need to not have any more truth serum. But
no, bruh, that child support, I mean, just there's men who are living at home and paying child support. And it's a vicious thing. And, even I was on child support and wasn't actually divorced simply because she didn't believe that I was actually going to take care of my child because of what she'd already been through. And I was like, no, I love my son. I love my children. You don't have to worry ever. And so I wanted to argue, but then I just said, you know what? That's my child. So
sorry, bro.
No, go ahead. So yeah, just do you do what you got to do because it is your child, and you just say, oh well, you suck it up.
And what it looks like on paper when you go in front of the judge doesn't really care about circumstances, really. They just care about, here's the order, here's what you got to do. They got enough, they got serial killers and people harming folks and stealing out there. On the flip side of that, I talk about, one would be so upset about not getting everything. I actually needed friends and support and family for a while. And then the other kid's mom, not only was I not helping her with like daycare, I needed her help. And so to be vulnerable in one spot where someone's trying to say, you're not doing enough. And I'm like, not only are you getting all of this, it's not even going to my other kids.
Right.
And to be that, was it vindictive? I don't know. But I'll never really know her decision on that and why. I think it was just a power struggle to get at me. Because outside of not seeing my kids or having adverse situations around the marriage and dating, I don't really have a chink in my armor. You can't really get to me about money. You can't really get to me about living situations, poor dad, being a fool, being dumb, having all the tattoos and stuff. You can't really get at me. The only way you get at me is my kids. And I think they know that. And probably because I said it's so important. But
right.
Yeah, man, we got other questions I can answer on that.
There's another one, Candace. She says, do you feel as though she was left better off than when you met her?
Ooh.
I know, right? She's going there.
Yeah,
Was she worse
man.
off? Did you leave her jacked up? What you saying, Candace?
Well, I mean, my life's already public record, right? Married, divorced, business owner, politician. Um, it actually was January 14th, 2006. Uh, I had been working all day. She was not working. She was a stay-at-home mom at that time because our son was so new. And mind you, we had already lost our first. And, healthcare was worlds different in 2004. You weren't married, you didn't enroll at the right time, and we weren't married when Lindsay happened. We lost her and we became an angel, and we were stuck with all the bills, all the debt. And that's just a lot to go on for not only a new couple, any new marriage, and younger kids. But I remember the day I left, we still had two different cars, and I said, I know it would be easier for me to rebuild. And so I left the house and I left everything in it with her.
Mm.
I took I took one of the entertainment centers. It sounds like I'm really bougie. It was like my brother's old one, but I took the entertainment center and this big old glass 32-inch TV. I was the only person that could move it anyway at the time. And I took my clothes and I left everything else with her. And I said, we will figure it out. But the last thing I want to do is disrupt anything more for her and my son.
Right.
A couple days later, she left everything. Didn't keep the house, trashed the car. Then, wanted the car, wanted to help fix it, and then wanted to took it to a mechanic shop. Then found out how expensive it was going to be. It says, well, it's not even in my name. You need to call him.
Hmm.
And I was like, what?
Hmm.
So, is it better now? She receives more. I think that also with her age, she's also not as peak and valley to react to things, to get triggered by things. But I look at it now, and this is one of the things I knew I had to grow up through it. What's the point? What's the real reward and gain of constantly bickering? And when I was, every time that I try to move on and really happy relationship, she kind of surfaces to ping something up.
Hmm.
Always something. And so I want her to be happy. I'll be honest. I want her to have the nicest car. She's got a newer car, I think, than I do, right? I want her to have a nice house. I want her to have nice things. I want her to be able to provide. But there's a point where definitely as a man, and there's a lot of stigma around this, there's a point that her life and her success of that is also dependent on her.
Mm.
Because
Mm.
I still have to do it on my own without her help,
Mm.
at least from those monetary types of things.
Right.
So I know I said a lot there.
No, you're right, because and that again, that's how we're conditioned. I think society is conditioned that's that role of men. Whereas if we meet a person or meet a woman, we should never leave them in a worse situation or else we're wrong. So there's such an onus that's put on men to constantly lead the way in areas where sometimes women need to step up and take ownership as well. So, like in the case of a divorce, hey, we're both broken and we're both hurt. We both got to figure it out. So, like you said, sometimes you gotta suffer a little bit. And if the man finds a way to move forward faster financially, sometimes there's a little animosity in those terms in that area. So it's a challenge, and going back and helping out the ex, at times, should you or should you not help the ex out?
Right.
Those are questions that must be answered, especially if you're dating someone new. Now, do you help the ex out and you got somebody new in the house? You date, so all those questions.
Those are great points, man. So you talk about, someone new, when she was and when she was pregnant with her second child, outside of us, her car had broken down. it needed brakes and a couple other things. And I'm out there, brought my jack, worked on the street a few times, replaced the master cylinder. I mean, I'm handy with a car. And I did that just because not only to show my son, but even if she's pregnant with another man's child, my kid's still going to be in that car.
Right.
And at that time, I didn't have extra money, but I had a discount at Advanced Auto, and I had the ability to fix it.
Mm.
And on the flip side, I'm talking about all my pain points. There was a time I absolutely loved my ex-wife. She knows me and my childhood and all the things I went through, from pantries to not having cars to why I got these big old legs I still have these days because I had to ride my bike all over town. And there's times that she's gone out of her way to have kind gestures. Even after the divorce, there's times that she did some pretty big things. So I know it's not as bad as it was when it felt like hate.
Right.
But the only thing that I have issues with now is how is it better in her life and how's it better for my son? And so we talk about someone new. I had this thought one time, and I was cutting it up with the boys, and I'm like, man, you know what I got? A lawyer, an announcement, and this, that, and the other. And I said, she's dating this other man. How does that other man feel when she's just still all up on my business all the time, worrying about my money? And I was like, well, who's this other cat not stepping in, providing? And so then I know when a woman has come to me about stuff, she's like, that's a little bit more baggage than I need. I said, well, at least you found out from me.
Right. That's good. Let me ask you this, and I think we're going to kind of wrap this up. And I really appreciate you being so, candid about all that you've been through. It shows a lot in your character that you are willing to be so forthright, so open, and so honest. These are things that men just don't talk about, but yet we all know we go through them. So, even those for those brothers watching now with your S on your chest, you going through and broken hearted, but you know what I'm saying? So, mean to girls, mean to women, you don't know why, because you need to get some of that stuff off your chest, which is why, I try to do the male perspective, because there's a way that we look at things that are, totally unaware to women, and I think, sometimes women just need to see things from our perspective. So I want to really put that out there. So what do you see for your family? What's the vision for going forward now that you've been through this? What do you see?
Love and understanding, unconditional love and understanding, that you're not perfect, that no matter what you had planned, what you thought of, you've been working on, it could all change and go 180 degrees the other way. And to be able to take ownership in what you brought to the table, good and bad. And so you talk about being equally yoked with someone. That also means that you need to be honest with that person about what is your baggage, what are your triggers, and what are you going to do about that with that person. And so for me, my son right now, in a co-parenting way, my oldest son, we talk about his school and education. Being a vice president of Metro Community College Board of Governors right now, education was the biggest way that I knew I was going to change and one up my life. Seeing all my friends who were awesome meatheads and, football jocks and stuff like that. And I'm a big boy and I played, but it was never number one. I just wanted to get a scholarship. To go to Creighton Prep from the hood as an academic scholarship, boy, let me tell you, I got my lumps and licks because people are like, oh, look at Nerd Boy with his books. I'm like, you make fun now, but you're going to call me when you need me later.
Right.
But for my family, I think it's just having that safe space, and me also making sure that I do my best to hold people accountable to make that happen, and to make sure who's around my son and my kids, who's around, kids' mom, that it's healthy for everybody around. And so really just knowing that I accept you, I love you, wrong, if you made mistakes, and, and to be healthy, to be honest about some of that stuff. So right now with my son, he's so frustrated about his grades because he's like, my dad don't mess up. My dad's in Mensa, my dad knows it all. I'm dad to him, right?
Right.
But I always want my children to know, and especially anyone I work with out in this community, it's not about the outcome, it's about the effort, the output. And that's what I really care about. As long as you put 100% effort into it and you gave it your best, we're going to find out you might not be great at it, but we all know at the table that we all put in a piece to make it good.
Powerful.
Man.
Powerful. That's good.
Man, I mean, I tell you, I mean, homeless, dealing with mixed families. I mean, my family's dinner table looked like YMCA, man, when we have holidays. You know, Black, brown, Native American, Sicilian. I mean, it's a trip. And then you go down to Arkansas, my father's family from, beautiful people. I love them. But, you know, for me, even to talk like this this spring, and I'll tell you, I probably couldn't have done it 10 years ago. I know, you know, maybe 5 years ago, I'd open up on some things because you just have to take ownership with it. And just like I did with my mental health, I'm going through divorce, going through relationships, co-parenting woes. I made the same decision internally with myself and my own being, and being honest about, you know, you talk about brothers and men, we don't want to talk about it. It took 1.5 years to get approved for my weight loss surgery. And because I didn't have the horrible high blood pressure, I wasn't crazily obese, even though I was like 51, 52% or whatever my BMI was. And there was no men other in the room. And if anyone was really doing it, they were just doing it for vain looks. They're like, man, I just want to look good, you know, be single out here, talk to these ladies.
Right.
And I'm like, well, what about if you change your diet and now you teach those good habits to your kid? And I'm still a proud dad. I don't like sweets. You put any barbecue in front of me, I'll smash on it because I need all the protein. My kids don't like sweets, and I'm proud of that. I mean, I kind of have to force them, like, hey, you can have some little Oreos, you know, a couple servings. It's all right, son.
Right.
So, man, I could talk about this stuff all day. I really appreciate today, man. And if anyone wants to reach back out to me anytime, I might. You can find me on Facebook here. Tim's got me tagged up, and then also my campaign site, michaelyoung2020.com.
Yes, sir. Well, we're gonna wrap that up again. This is Michael Young talking about single fathers, divorce, pain, recovery, and healing. He just gave us some nuggets and some pearls on how he's overcome, and giving us something to think about, new perspective. And so that's what this is all about, the male perspective. And we want to keep growing and keep moving forward. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate you. And this is Timothy Moore from Acquiring Vision, signing off right now.